This is a peated whiskey that I made over 3 years ago, and today is super special because I've decided it's finally ready to be bottled. We're going to do a little bit more than that today. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, this is Still It, and this is a very special day for me. I very seldomly get a aged spirit to the point where I think, that's it. It's ready, it's time to bottle. Generally, it just sits out here in barrels, glass jars, or the bad mode barrels. I taste it every now and again. It slowly gets lower and lower due to angel shears and me sampling. But I very seldomly just put it in a bottle and say, I'm happy with it, and then get to just enjoy drinking it. And that is why I am so excited to be bottling this whiskey up today. We're going to do a little bit more than that. I'm going to treat it a little bit specially, do it up nicely, but we're also going to do some blending because I've got a conceptual idea that I think is cool as an idea, and I also think it could be really tasty. And this is an excuse to at the very least, just try it and see if it has legs. The first thing I want to do is actually filter this out because there is a decent amount of chunky, There's a decent amount of chunky stuff floating around in there. Mostly it's debris from the wood itself. There might be a few bugs in there as well. So let's get this filtered out. And while we're doing this, I should probably let you know exactly what this is. This is a New Zealand peated whiskey. What does that mean? It's peat that was dug out of the ground in New Zealand, which Gladfields then used to smoke barley that's grown in New Zealand, malted in New Zealand, and obviously smoked in New Zealand as well. So a whiskey made with this turns out pretty similar to a big, smoky Islay Scotch. But it turns out, and this kind of makes sense because peat is just, decomposed plant material, really. The flavor profile of this is, in some ways subtly and in other ways not so subtly, different than an Islay-style Scotch. To me, Scottish peat is quite herby, and it has that real phenolic, burning hospital kind of smell to it. This is a little bit more wood smoky. Not wood smoky like if you were, to smoke grain with post oak or hickory or something. It's a little bit more like a smouldering beach fire, and it also has a really interesting, sweet, decaying leaf litter kind of almost like rot to it. I know that could be construed as me having a go at this and saying it's horrible. It's really not. It reminds me of walking through the New Zealand bush. It has that distinct smell to it. And that's what I want to utilize kind of for this idea that I was talking about earlier on. But before we get to that, let's see exactly what we're dealing with here and check the ABV. 47.7, and this is the first reason that I think it's getting to the point where it needs to be bottled. This hobby of distillation seems to attract people from all different walks of life, but if there's a couple of things that I could pick to say that kind of holds everyone together, it's a sense of curiosity and of a desire to learn stuff. How was that segue to today's sponsor, CuriosityStream? CuriosityStream is a subscription-based streaming service that offers thousands of top-end documentaries and non-fiction style shows. It's available on a whole host of different platforms, most important for me being Android, PC, and of course the Chromecast, but it also rocks on Fire TV, Roku, Xbox One, Apple TV, so on and so forth. My wife, Erin, for example, is hooked on the neuroscience and children development side of things. The kids are absolutely blown away by the seemingly unending documentaries on owls and wolves. And I love the physics side of things. That's kind of my jam at the moment. And with new content every week, it just keeps on coming. But the value gets even better if you go to curiositystream.com/stillit and use the code STILLIT. Or if you're a QR kind of person, you can use this and you'll get 25% off. So use one of the codes or the link in the description down below at curiositystream.com/stillit to get 25% off now. It's not super low in ABV, but it is starting to get to the point where it's gone past It's done all the mellowing it can do, and I worry if it dips too much lower, we're going to start getting into the territory where things just get a little bit weird. I'm sure I could push the aging a little bit further and let it drop down to maybe 45%, but the thing is, I feel like it's done all of the good things it can do. The alcohol presence is mellowed right out. There's a whole lot of body in the spirit. There's lots of oak flavor, more in the presence of kind of subtle oakiness, a touch of astringency, and a little bit of vanilla-y sweetness sitting underneath it all. And that acts as a backbone to kind of carry this big peaty presence. I also do personally like a small amount or a balanced amount of astringency, especially in spirits like this. It's big, it's bold, it has a decent amount of mouthfeel and sweetness to it, and the astringency kind of helps cut through that a little bit to make it almost more like a savory snack-like experience rather than a dessert. But I am worried that letting this sit longer is going to get more and more astringency with not a lot more of any of the other things. And once again, for that reason, time to pull it and to bottle it. Sure, we could push this and let this go for perhaps another year, but it's got to the point now where it's just good. I like it the way it is. And for the first real time in 6 years, I'm just going to say, you know what? That's what I like. I'm stopping it now. I don't want to risk it any further. I just want to bottle it as is. First step is let's get some of this as it is into a couple of bottles. I've got 4.5 litres. Let's fill these 3 bottles, which I think is going to be a little under 2.5 litres. I did play with this off camera in terms of proofing it down to see if that would change things or improve things, and it didn't. It didn't help at all. It just kind of thinned it out and made it taste like a pale reflection of itself, which is not what I'm into for this. I'm not worried about trying to scrape up a little bit more volume. I really just want this to be everything it can be in and of itself. We have 3 bottles of the straight up barrel proof New Zealand Peat Whiskey locked in and bottled, which makes me very, very happy, I have to say. Now it's time to have a little bit of a play around with that idea I was telling you about. So I want to mess around with some blending here. The special thing about the New Zealand peat to me is, like I said earlier, it literally reminds me of walking through the New Zealand bush. That makes me super freaking happy. Another thing that is really New Zealand-y is Manuka. And this is a Manuka smoked whiskey. It actually tastes really good by itself. It's a little bit too smoky, to be honest. And I only have a wee amount of it. So this is probably going to be used for blending at some point today, whether it's today or not, I don't know. These 2 things mixed together, in my mind, is about as Kiwi as you can get. But there's a whole other side to this whole distilling thing for me, and that is the influence coming from America. America's just a juggernaut in the space, like bourbon. Dude, it's huge. I love bourbon as well. A lot of the equipment, a lot of the ingenuity, but more importantly to me, some of the favorite people I've met, some of the favorite times I've had because of the Still It channel have been with people in America, specifically in Texas, most of all, just because that's where I've been the most. So this is 100% corn. This represents the American side of things to me, and these the New Zealand. So I want to try blending these, and I had a quick play with this the other day. There's 2 main blends that I want to try again, and then see if I can tweak it. So the first one is 3 parts corn. We'll do 15 mils. 2 parts of the New Zealand peat, 10 mils. And 5 mils of the Manuka. And the second is, what was it? Oh, that's right. 3 parts of the New Zealand peat, 2 parts corn, 1 part of the Manuka. After standing here and tasting these a few times, letting them sit for 20 minutes and taking them inside and sharing them with Erin to get her thoughts, both of us agree that this version is better. So that was 3 parts, 2 parts, 1 part. The corn is adding kind of like a honey sweetness to it in a weird way. This is quite big, bold, and sticky, and it's just kind of mellowing things out just a smidge. But I do want to try one more where I push this even a little bit further with this and drop this back a little bit, because this is so freaking strong. I'm still getting almost more Manuka out of it than the peat. So we'll give it one more nudge. And this time I'm going to go 4 parts corn, 2 parts peat. You know what? Let's start this off real small and go with a half part. So what was that? 20 mils, 10 mils, 2.5 mils. Let's give that a nudge. It makes the peat the predominant smoke. It makes the Manuka kind of like just play away in the background. And it gives the corn the big bold bit in the middle. And the corn flavor and the corn sweetness is mixing really nice with the almost caramelly-like sweetness that comes from this. But then it also lifts that leaf litter flavor up a little bit, which is, it doesn't make more of it. It just kind of separates things out a little bit so you can pick it out more specifically. I think I like this one. Yep, that's it. That's, I think, as good as I'm going to get with the stuff that I am working with. But there is one big problem. This corn is nice, it's subtle, it's smooth, but it isn't fighting. It's not standing up to these very much. And it's good in and of itself. It's a nice blend. But it doesn't give me that American-New Zealand intermingling. And I don't think I have anything on the shelves that's going to do it. I do have a secret weapon, and I just want to try this. This bottle's super special to me. We can't get it here in New Zealand. I brought it back from America last time I was there. Let me pour a wee bit of this. Man, the guys at Iron Root know what the hell they're doing. I don't think it needs a lot of this, but I think just a little bit. And what I'm looking for here is that kind of classic straw, apple, cherry, corn medley that you get in really good bourbon. It's not a great way to describe it, but it's the closest I can get. And the barrel spice. This doesn't have very much barrel spice at all. Close. Needs a little more. That's it. That's what this should be. Okay, I am going to make this blend. I am going to make a couple of bottles of it. I wish that I had better corn spirit on hand, because that makes this just sing. All right, this is inspiration. It's inspiration to make a better corn whiskey. So I can have this. I'm never going to make this, guys. They're freaking wizards. If I can get like to 60, 70% of what this is, I'll be super happy. But also being able to blend it in with this makes this really crazy. Anyway, let me make a couple bottles of this blend, because it is good. It's just not nearly as good as that. God damn it. Inspiration, Jesse, inspiration. Don't get down on yourself. And then I'll bottle the rest up as is. I need to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you, Patreons, for being the people that support us day in, month out. And yes, I do need to do the Q&A video. And I have a post which will involve a giveaway for the Patreons. So if you're Patreon and you haven't checked the Patreon platform out for a while, make sure to do so. So because this is, well, it's special to me, and because I have a few bottles, I decided to give them a little extra love and print labels out just on a standard printer, stick them onto the bottles with a glue stick, and give the top of a few bottles that I want to save for a little bit later a good waxing. If you haven't tried this yet, guys, give it a nudge, because it does just make I don't know, it makes me feel happy. It gives you a little bit of excuse to kind of feel a little proud about something that you've made, have it sitting on the shelf. I'm going to take probably half of these bottles and squirrel them away in a corner in the shed somewhere where I'll hopefully forget about them for a year. The rest, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of and just enjoy actually drinking something rather than sampling something for a change. And my hope is in 2 to 8 years, I'm going to find one of these bottles, pop it open and think, that's okay, but I could do way better now. That's what my hope is for especially these 2 bottles, which I'm going to stash somewhere. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. If you have, do all the YouTubey things, give it a like, drop a comment in the comment section down below, and let us know what you've bottled recently. And more importantly, I'll catch you next time, guys. Keep on chasing the craft. See ya.